nouveau-né. J'ouvre mes yeux. Je fonds. Dans la nuit éternelle. Une étincelle.
Mesdames, Messieurs, dans quelques instants, nous allons faire de Paris-Montparnasse, terminus de notre train.
Je tombe dans la flamme.
Hi, I'm Rafa, and today on The Long Take, we'll be looking at a film by one of the most distinctive and remarkable art house filmmakers America has ever produced. But despite the stature Terrence Malick has in the academic community, the general public, particularly in his home country, has traditionally given his work a lukewarm reception. For the majority of American moviegoers, accustomed to the traditional storytelling structures and hallmarks of popular entertainment, Malick frustrates those expectations to an infuriating degree. The further he has progressed in his career, the more he has abandoned the requisites of good storytelling. Anything resembling a three-act structure, a clear narrative, and a character arc looks increasingly like a vestigial trait on an evolving organism. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the film generally considered to be his worst.
À la merveille.
Case in point, this scene in which Marina, played by Olga Kurilenko, learns she's dodged a bullet related to some medical complications.
You and your husband need to consider is with the absence of the IUD, is this a time that you may want to think about children, or is there another means for contraception?
So I don't need to have a hysterectomy.
That's the good news.
This is the first and last time we ever hear about her problematic lady bits, and it doesn't seem to add anything at all to our understanding of Marina's character or her shitty marriage. Or how about this sequence, in which we learn that Marina's husband Neil, played by Ben Affleck, is revealed to be some sort of environmental inspector? A fact that is never even tangentially relevant to the story. This film is constructed almost entirely of moments like this, and it's easy to see why so many of Malick's critics dismiss his movies as bloated, pretentious nature porn featuring flat characters doing nothing at all. But the key to understanding To the Wonder is not to view it as a drama, for in that regard it surely fails as much as Citizen Kane fails to be a comedy. Malick is not a storyteller, a fact that is made even more obvious by his filmmaking methods, which evolved from massively editing the script after he shot it to not really having a script at all, just reams of notes. And I think it's pretty obvious that this is a man that doesn't use storyboards at all. Instead, like a poet, he begins with a complex idea or difficult question, places it within a framing device, in this case a marriage on the rocks, and writes on the fly, whispering lines in the ears of his actors as they improvise scenes. His first draft, in other words, isn't really on paper as much as it is on celluloid, and he sculpts it all in post until, like a good poem, the film presents and examines its themes with an indirect, delicate beauty. His films are about people driven to seek some personal Eden or redemptive identity, embarking on a search for meaning in a cruelly desolate yet stunningly beautiful world. A world fundamentally intertwined with all human drama, yet entirely indifferent to it. In Badlands, for example, Kit and Holly embark on separate journeys along the same road, attempting to escape society in the hopes they'll find their particular paradise out in the Badlands of Montana. For Kit, a world in which he can never be forgotten. For Holly, a fairy tale romance that ends happily ever after. In a way, they each get what they are looking for, but only by returning to the society from which their story began. Kit is taken into custody as a criminal celebrity, and Holly marries the son of the lawyer who defended her. This circularity, fleeing from one world into another, idealizing that world, and then returning to the place of departure and wondering just how different that other world really was, is the fundamental structure of Malick's films. The worlds are usually geographic, like the primordial wilds of America and the sculpted cities of England in the New World. but they can be temporal or conceptual as well, like 1960s suburban Texas as seen through the lens of memory in The Tree of Life, or whatever this place is. Of equal importance is Malick's fascination with interrogating and subverting American mythology. In Badlands, it was the fable of the lovers on the lamb.
Boy, if I could sing a song like that. If I could sing a song about the way I feel right now, it'd be a hit.
The dream has ended, for true love died. The night a blossom fell and touched two lips that lied.
In Days of Heaven, the agrarian paradise of the American West. The Thin Red Line, the moral righteousness of World War II.
Are you righteous? Kind? Does your confidence lie in this? Are you loved by all? Know that I was, too.
In To the Wonder, the myths under scrutiny are the American dream and the sanctity of marriage. Here, Marina, fresh off the boat, encounters a fantastical display of Americana.
Un pays si calme. Honnête. Riche.
But later,
Mon visa est déjà expiré. Il faut regarder les choses en face. Et si tu m'avais demandé de rester, je l'aurais fait.
at its most basic level, To the Wonder, like so many other poems before it, is about love.
Quel est cet amour qui nous aime?
Specifically, love as an act of faith.
The husband is to love his wife as Christ loved the church and give his life for her.
The priest and Marina are the central figures of the film, and their troubled relationships, with God and with Neil respectively, are deliberate mirrors of each other. The priest, whose daily work immerses him almost exclusively in humanity's most desperate hours, struggles to cope with the infinite silence from the God to whom he's pledged his soul.
En todos lados estás presente. Y aún así no puedo verte.
A silence paralleled in Neil's aphasia.
Montre-moi comment je peux t'aimer.
Watch how Neil reacts when Marina confesses to her infidelity.
Forgive me.
Okay, you get the point. Now, while we watch Ben do his best Ryan Gosling impression, I'd like to mention something that I don't really have time to get into, but deserves your attention. Malick is an intensely elliptical filmmaker, cutting out traditional dramatic information in favor of allusions and implications. Here all Marina says is, "Forgive me," and
Please.
and it's not even clear if she said that aloud.
Just come back in 2 minutes.
In situations where most directors would do this,
C'est quoi, tu vas le sucer dans la voiture et puis après tu m'embrasses? Après t'oses m'embrasser? T'oses me toucher? T'oses me regarder? Tu fais des choses comme ça, toi? Et en plus tu mens, tu racontes des conneries, tu me racontes des cracks. T'es qu'une petite traînée!
Malick does this. Anyway, back to the point. Perhaps God and Neil can't express their love in ways that can be easily understood or even perceived.
I can feel the warmth of the light, brother. That's spiritual, you know. I'm feeling more than just natural light, feeling a spiritual light, see?
Or perhaps that love was never really there to begin with, and the ephemeral, haunting beauty of the world is just as devoid of meaning as a relationship that never had a leg to stand on.
He's killing me! Here!
Both the priest and Marina, in committing to their respective covenants, are making a leap of faith.
You have to struggle with yourself. You have to struggle with your own strength.
The relative lack of distinctive qualities in these characters is a deliberate choice, not a mistake. In stripping them of individuality, they blend into each other rather than distinguish themselves, connecting them all to some sort of universal soul or universal experience.
Il y a toujours ce quelque chose d'invisible, mais que je sens si fort. Et qui nous lie avec force.
So let's go back to the sequence for a moment. Here's Neil listening to some citizens who are affected by the environmental damage in their community.
It's just our property. I mean, can we do what we want to do with this? I mean, I tell my husband to get us out of here, but where we gonna go? I mean, look at it. There's nowhere to go. Who wants to buy it?
And you got all these lawyers, these big-time lawyers who can't get no help. Even the dog acting funny.
And here's the priest, listening to the troubled souls of his parish.
My father's not around.
¿Por cuánto tiempo te vas a esconder?
If I would have known it was there, I'd have thrown it up. It's everything that I hold dear.
Déjame llegar a ti.
Last pie. I mean, come on, really?
I feel like this is just
Déjame que no finja.
everything that happened around. I'm like a person. And it just
Fingir sentimientos que no tengo.
they're always just telling me they want me to continue.
Neither of them has the answers, nor has the power to fix anything. The most Neil can do is poke the ground with a stick, and the most the priest can do is nod his head and touch people with his hands while looking pious. While some of his followers seem to think that this is enough, the priest clearly doesn't think so. He never says as much, but it's written all over his face.
Todo lo que veo es destrucción. Fracaso. Ruina.
Give me a blessing, I'm perfect people. But know what I am.
Marina doesn't seem terribly convinced either. Yet still she presses on, submitting to the belief that everything will work out. That Neil loves her, that this country loves her, that God loves her, and she risks everything on that belief. It's no coincidence that Jane, Neil's other fling, experiences the same circular journey that Marina does, beginning as a single woman suddenly smitten by Neil.
You make me laugh. You make me happy.
Committing to a relationship fueled by faith, and ending once again as a single woman facing a daunting reality check.
I thought I knew you. Now I don't think you ever were.
Marina, the priest, Neil, and Jane, all members of one big soul, and yet unable to coexist, despite a profound belief that they can. Faith. Not faith in any particular thing, but faith itself, is one of the constant themes in Malick's work. Light, that ancient metaphor for truth, wreathes his characters as they endlessly reach for it, spilling from windows, diffusing in cloth, refracting in water. Some critics have misread this as some sort of religiosity, mistaking the often tragically deluded or naive musings of his characters as Malick preaching through them. But the manner in which he elegantly channels and limits light belies this, presents truth as Moby Dick, caught only in glimpses, pursued at your own peril. But rather than presenting his Ahabs with a cynical solipsism, the sheer splendor of Malick's imagery suggests that these often doomed endeavors are precisely what he finds so worthy in humanity. Perhaps it is our willingness to endure tragedy for the hope of an answer to our deepest questions that defines the soul of our species. The thing that separates
The way of nature and the way of grace.
More than poetry, Malick's films are also elaborate, evocative dances, a language of bodies in motion expressing things most other filmmakers would put only in words. Words are deceptive in Malick's work. As we saw in this clip, he often detaches words from the people speaking them, transforming communication into a barrier against understanding. Ironically, the more his characters seem to understand each other's words, the less they seem to understand each other. So instead, he seeks the truths our bodies cannot hide, through movement and music, the languages of the heart. I could talk about this and the seemingly endless list of themes in his work forever, but we can't spend all day on YouTube, so instead I'll just say this. Marina is the only one who appears to find that light of truth. At the very end, with the dreams of America and a happy marriage forever shattered, the landmarks of her journeys haunted by the ghosts of her past.
L'amour qui nous aime. Merci.
Perhaps she's realized that there's no ultimate purpose or divine plan to which moments like this belong, and come to accept life as the enigma that it is, a journey in which we make the meaning for ourselves. Or, maybe, God has finally revealed himself to her.
Enséñanos cómo buscarte.
In these last few moments, we witness a transcendent culmination. Movement. Silence. Light. And the poetic closing of a circle. Mont Saint-Michel, the ancient monastic fortress where the film began. The end, and a new beginning. So, it looks like y'all really like my Godzilla essay. So I think I might stick to comparison formats for the time being. If the stars align, the next essay should be a face-off between Star Wars and Star Trek. So stay tuned for that.